every Wednesday, 4:10 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to jump right into it. We'll save all the promotional stuff for the very end to promote the podcast. But today I want to talk about getting basically getting past objections when it deals with somebody who's a contractor and you're calling them about a full-time opportunity, or they're a full-time person and you want to talk to them about an actual contract. This is a key area right now where the humanity that you bring to the table is absolutely critical to the process. And before I dig in, I want to share with you the key here is selling and not telling. We do that, we sell and not tell by asking a bunch of questions instead of pontificating, instead of bloviating and talking about all about ourselves. The more we bloviate, the less your prospect is going to listen to what you have to say. Remember, they're only tuned in to what's in it for them. It's all they really care about. But your job as a professional recruiter is to control the frame, the discussion. To do this, you must understand the value your client brings to the table. What are their sell features? Why do people want to work there? Why do people stay there? Your goal should not be to get your prospect to say yes to whatever it is you have. Your goal in this process is to get them to say yes for the position that is the best for them. You have to approach it with that mindset at all times because that will improve the quality process you engage in. Now, when you're at the beginning stages of a conversation with the candidate, you need to listen to the priorities of the candidate. Questions you ask in your initial interview should guide you. One of the things I like to say is, in my opening statement, is I do both contract and full-time. What is your preference? Why is that? Then I take a lot of notes. I ask questions about each reason. Hey, I like contract because I'm constantly working on new and exciting projects. I'm a full-time guy because I really like stability. Intent, that's the number one reason. So ask questions about each reason. Have a conversation about it, not an interrogation, but a conversation so that you can dig under the surface layers and find out what's really actually going on. Now, it's been brought up to me that what if it's a full-time person applying for a contract? Or what if it's a contract person applying for a full-time job? We've got to ask, why did you apply for that job? Hey, you're a full-time person. Why are you applying for a contract? They might say, oh, I didn't know it was a contract. Sorry, I'm going to pass. Or I didn't know it was a full-time gig. Sorry, I'm going to pass. You want to find out what is that underlying motivation? What are the strategic advantages they're looking to gain from it? You have to dig, you have to ask a lot of questions so that you understand exactly what's going on. So if you're dealing with a guy or gal who is normally full-time and they are considering a contract and it is something they're actually open to, some of the things you can sell about it. Hey, this is a contract opportunity. If you do a good job, my client has a history of extending people who do a good job. Or they have a history of converting contractors who do a good job to full-time. And that's what you really want, isn't it? Notice the tie-down close there at the end. I even tell them, hey, if you don't do a good job, that's when you're not going to get extended. Now, you're going to do a good job, aren't you? And that satisfies your need for stability if you get a contract extension, doesn't it? Or if you get a full-time offer, doesn't it? That's really actually a very important question for that full-time stability-oriented person. If you do a good job, they're going to extend you, and you're going to do a good job, aren't you? It's kind of an acid test. It puts that individual in a position where they have to admit they're going to have to do a good job. And that's really what's important. And if they struggle with that, you can tell them, hey, if I place you as a full-time person and you don't do a good job, who do you think is going to get laid off? Who do you think is going to let go? And they're going to know the answer. So you can assure them that job stability isn't about whether the position is full-time or contract. Job stability is really about, are they delivering value to their employer? Because if they do, they're going to be kept, they're going to be promoted, they're going to get more money. And if they're not, well, they're not. And something else you can do, there's another situation. Let's say you've got a short term contract. Let's say it's just going to be 2 months long. And the person you're talking to is currently unemployed, but they really want that full time gig. You can tell them it's always easier to find a job when you have a job. This is perfect for you because it is such a short term contract. It's going to enable you to continue looking for that full time opportunity. You're going to be presently employed, which is going to actually make you more valuable on the job market. And all you've got to do is tell them when you get an offer, hey, I'm not available until date X because I've committed to this short term contract. And 99% of the employers out there are going to respect that. So that's actually another tool you can put in your quiver if it's a short term contract. And it's always a better way to look for a job because it keeps them employed. Of course, you don't want to do this with somebody who's currently employed. You don't want them leaving a full time gig or a long term contract for a 2 month contract. Another question you can ask when it's contract versus full time is which way is going to most advance your career? Which position has the most likelihood or the best opportunity to advance you in your career? How to sell full time? Well, it really is about stability and benefits. And you're going to have to go back to that initial conversation, find out what's really important to them, and feed on that and basically feed it back to them. This is going to offer you stability. This company hasn't done any layoffs. This company is growing. Here's a great indicator of stability. This is a company that is willing to pay me a fee, an agency fee, to hire somebody. And they've always paid my bills in the past. That makes this company pretty stable. Wouldn't you agree? Again, notice the little tie down there on the end. One thing I want to throw in here, just as an aside, if you've got somebody that, for the lower level positions, for positions that might pay 15, 20, maybe even up to $25 an hour, it is actually sometimes better for that person to stay on unemployment. And they're going to stay on unemployment if they're making more on unemployment than they're going to get if they take your job. That's just fact. That's human nature. When you're dealing with somebody like that, unemployment has a limit. It is going to end at a certain point. So if somebody is currently unemployed and you're calling about a job that is in that pay range where it might be more beneficial for them to actually stay on unemployment benefits, instead of asking them if they're taking unemployment benefits, you should ask them, when does your unemployment benefits run out? Get a specific date from them. Then you want to follow up with that person about a month before those benefits run out because they're going to start getting hungry right about then. And they're going to want to go out and get a job because those unemployment benefits are going to stop. So just create a tickler, follow up with those people at that particular point. Now, a couple of other objections you may run into. What if the company has negative Glassdoor reviews? Well, my experience has been that most of the people that take the time to leave a review are people that are actually unhappy with that employer. So your Glassdoor reviews are going to tend to skew towards the negative. I suggest you look at it holistically. And besides, who knows what that individual actually went through? You owe it to yourself to actually interview for this position and ask questions so you can make an informed decision that's best for you and best for your family. What are the benefits? Closer to home, less micromanagement. There's all different kinds of things you can sell. If you ask that question up front at the beginning, what's important to you? Why do you prefer contract? Why do you prefer full time? And sell to that. Now, if you're converting somebody from contract to full time, you want to find out again why they'd be open to making that change. Why would they not leave the full time position that I got for them if another contract comes up? You're running a big risk with that person. If somebody's a professional contractor and they're suddenly looking at full time, there's usually a reason that they're not going to tell you why, and that is they're not getting the contract gigs that they're used to getting. So they're open suddenly to full time. But again, you're running a big risk that that person is going to bail on you if they get a contract opportunity that is in line with what they've typically done. So when you're dealing with somebody like that, you've got to ask them, what would it take in a full-time position for you to consider leaving contracting and move into a full-time role? And this is critical, what type of commitment are you willing to make to my client to stick around? What kind of commitment are you willing to make that you're not going to take an offer and then leave for a contract? You need to be direct and blunt and bold with this question, because if you don't, you're going to get your house burned down. Very, very, very important. Help me understand what would motivate you to take a contract. This is moving from full time to contract. Help me understand, you've been a full time person, you've enjoyed stability, you've enjoyed benefits. What would motivate you to take a contract? What would be the issue for you? Help me understand that. What would the conditions need to be? What would the pay have to be? What would the project have to be? Those are really, really critical questions. You need to make sure that your contract opportunity lines up with what their priorities are. You're going to run around in circles. You've got a bad match. Now, how do you sell against a contract that might be longer than yours? Let's assume you've got a 3-month contract and they're interviewing for a 6-month contract. John, I've been doing this a long time. I've learned that the best placements I make are the ones where my candidate is primarily concerned about the people, the projects, and the company before they're worried about money and contract length. So you want to basically position it that the individual, the contractor you're talking to, or the candidate you're talking to, is it the right people? Are they the right people they're going to be working with? Are the people they're going to be working with, are they going to help them advance their career? Are they going to add to their value? And if that question is yes, only if that question is yes, then you move to projects. Is the project going to help you advance your career? If that answer is yes, then you move to the company. Is it the right company for you? Are you going to fit in with this company? Is this company going to get you where you want to go? If these 3 things are there, the people, the projects, the company, then and only then do we worry about the money and the term of the contract. Because if somebody is good enough to get 2 offers, they've got an offer for a 3-month contract and a 6-month contract, the likelihood is when either one of those contract ends, they're going to be in a position where other companies are fighting for them as well. Unemployment really isn't a risk for somebody who is securing 2 or more offers through a staffing agency at any given time. That person has a skill set that's going to be in demand. They have a personality that's likable, and they really don't have anything to worry about. Sometimes you're going to have to convince the person of that. You're going to have a gentle, loving conversation with them so that they understand and agree with you about that. Which opportunity has the better team? Which opportunity has the better projects? Which opportunity has the better company? You are in demand. Now, the last thing you can sell on that is, and let's just use the name John. John, when this contract ends, we're going to be able to take you and market you to other companies. And one of the things we're going to be able to tell them is, when we placed you in this last gig, that you had competing offers, and this is the one you chose. And you chose it because they were the right people, the right projects, and the right company for you at the time, because you were looking to advance your skill set. That becomes a very, very powerful sales tool you as a recruiter can use to market your candidate to that next opportunity. You need to tell them that. They need to understand the value of that. This has been Deep Recruiting with Jim Bryant. I hope you've gotten some value out of this. Please give us a comment. The most important thing you can do for us is give us a comment. I'm trying to grow this to where we get 1,000 live streams every time we go up. I want to see this thing explode. Leave us your comments. Give us a like. Give us a share. This is going to be available for download on Spotify, on iTunes. Trying to grow it, trying to make it bigger, because a rising tide, I say this every week, a rising tide lifts all boats. You can email us your questions, your topics, if you'd like to have us discuss something on your behalf. If you've got questions you want answered on how to be effective at what you do in this job, email us at deeprecruiting@teamgtn.com. Go over your question. This is actually a question we got yesterday, and kind of thought through it, went through the training, took some notes, and this is what the topic is about today. So thank you for that question. We want to hear more of them. So I hope you'll reach out to us at deeprecruiting@teamgtn.com. Again, give us a comment. Appreciate you all tuning in. Have a great week, everybody, and happy selling. Thanks so much.